Hello and welcome to Out of Spec Reviews. Today I drove the Volkswagen ID.4, and while I can't show you the video of me driving and going around the car yet, it will be coming soon. I can answer all of your questions about it and tell you my impressions of driving the car. So this will be you and me sitting down in this chair, unfortunately not driving the ID.4 together, but I will at least tell you what it's like to drive, and then you'll have to check back into this channel in hopefully a few days, but maybe as long as a week or two, where I can show you the first drive that we captured on video. So let's get into it. Before I went to drive ID.4, I actually posted in the Volkswagen ID.4 Facebook group, and I said, what do you guys want to know about it? Because I'm curious what people are curious about. And so I promised I would answer all of their questions. Also on my Twitter, @OutOfSpec, we had many people ask questions. So we have probably 80 or 90, maybe 100 questions to get through. We probably won't go through all of it, but I'm going to tell you the gist of the car, and then we'll get into the raw questions. Now, this channel isn't just about EVs. We cover all cars on here. So if you subscribe, be prepared to see all vehicles, not just electrified ones. Although I do love EVs, and we have many of outlets dedicated just to electric cars. You can go in the description below and subscribe to Out of Spec Motoring and Inside EVs, which are our two outlets that only cover electric vehicles. So let's get right into it. What was the ID.4 like? So we arrived here in Detroit, Michigan today to drive the ID.4. We first get to it. They take us on a great product presentation, show us around the car. We talk to some of the product planners about why they chose to make certain decisions with the vehicle, some technical decisions, some design decisions, and overall just got a tour of the vehicle. And the car itself, maybe before I tell you what I thought, let me tell you a little bit about it. It's Volkswagen's small electric crossover. It has a 82 kilowatt hour battery pack, 77 kilowatt hours of which is usable. This is the large battery. The large battery car starts at $39,995 here in the US. That's before taxes, before shipping and delivery, but still an incredible value for a brand new 80 plus kilowatt hour electric vehicle with a projected 250 mile EPA range. Now, this car also qualifies for the $7,500 tax credit, which brings it down into the low $30,000 range. And then certain states like New Jersey have an additional $5,000 tax credit. It just makes this car an unbelievable bargain. Another reason this car is such a big bargain is because you get 3 years of free charging on Electrify America. Now, for those who don't know, of course, there were a lot of stories early on about Electrify America not having the highest station reliability or station availability, and I'm certainly one to share to that story. You know, you've seen a lot of my road trips out on the Out of Spec Motoring YouTube channel, where we've road tripped non-Tesla electric cars on that network and ran into many problems. It certainly has happened. But I will say, and you'll see in upcoming videos, I just took an Audi e-tron on a road trip, a Porsche Taycan, and honestly, that didn't have any issues. It was amazing. I went to the middle of nowhere, Kentucky with the Audi e-tron and back. It was like 2,800 miles, something like this. Never once had an issue charging. So the network is getting much better. They're replacing all of their old buggy units with new ones, and I think that's really good. The ID.4 will also support plug-in charge, which Electrify America is rolling out starting today, which by the time you guys watch this will be at least tomorrow morning. And that means you can just plug the car in, your account details will be on there, and it will just start charging. No need to fiddle with the app, no need to fiddle with a credit card. It's just a one-time setup and you're good to go. This is something we've gotten very spoiled with, especially myself as a Tesla owner. I love just plugging into a supercharger. It's the way it should be, and now it's the way it will be for other EVs going forwards. Sounds like the ID.4 will not support plug-in charge from launch, but it will come as a software update soon thereafter. The ID.4 does have over-the-air software updates. and they can update every module on the vehicle. So that means battery capacity could increase, charging speeds could increase, motor output could increase. These are all things that are potentials. And in speaking with the Volkswagen Group crew today, it sounds like they really overbuilt the ID.4 for the specs that you're going to be getting. For example, it might do 0 to 60 in 7 to 8 seconds. It probably could do it in 5 or 6 if they wanted to turn it up. So we'll probably see these cars improving over time, which I think is a good thing. Start them out conservatively. Let's see how they do out in the fleet, and then turn them up to 11 as time goes. We've seen it with Tesla. It worked very well. Hopefully Volkswagen's keeping a close eye on it. We know they are. So what else can I tell you about the Volkswagen ID.4 that you may not know? It comes in 2 drivetrain configurations. You can get a rear-wheel drive, which is so great. Front-wheel drive EVs, especially high torque ones, don't necessarily make sense. Rear-wheel drive is better for handling for driving enthusiasts anyway. So you can get rear-wheel drive. That will be launching first in the US. And then you can also get all-wheel drive, which will have more power, over 300 horsepower. And speaking of that, let me tell you how it felt from an acceleration perspective. This is no P100D, folks. It's actually not that quick. The rear wheel drive is what I drove today. Big battery rear wheel, so 201 horsepower, something like this. 203, low 200 horsepower range. And it certainly had enough to get up out of its own way. Moved pretty good around town, but it's not melt your face. You certainly are going to, go wide open acceleration, and you're not going to scare anyone. But I would say it's adequately powered. Compared to internal combustion vehicles around the same price point and size, it's certainly already faster than that and way more usable and approachable because the power delivery is so smooth, nothing feels stressed. You just floor it and the car moves. So I would say, not all EVs need to be melt your face fast. This is an EV for the masses, and for the masses, it has plenty of acceleration. Now, for me, I really want the all-wheel drive configuration because that ups the power by over 100 horsepower or right around there, and that thing's going to rip pretty good. I think that's going to be a properly powered EV, and one of the benefits of electric cars is typically they're fast, and so the all-wheel drive version, I think, certainly will hold up to that pretty well. And as far as I'm aware, I think it will be the quickest accelerating Volkswagen product in the lineup, maybe excluding Golf R. We'll have to see what the numbers look like. Back to charging. It's a CCS connection, so you have J1772 at the top and the 2 DC pins at the bottom. This car can do 125 kilowatt peak DC rate. And that may not sound all that impressive, and in truth, it's really not, especially on a pack as big as 82 kilowatt hours gross. 77 kilowatt hour usable, of course. And what is impressive, though, is the Germans' approach to charging. If we take anything we've seen from Taycan or e-tron, if you go over to Inside EVs, I do these 0 to 100% DC charging tests and graph them, myself and my colleague Tom Malagny. We do this for every EV we test. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance with the ID.4 today, but I will soon when I have one for a long-term review. And I am suspecting this to hold its charge rate to at least 80% or so. And that means that your overall session average from 0 to 80% will actually give you maybe on par or more power than a very high power charging vehicle peak rate. So like a Model 3 gives you a good number, 250 kilowatt on about the same size pack, 74 versus 77 kilowatt hour usable. And this is certainly lower but can sustain longer. So we'll see how that works in the long term. Like I said, I drove an Audi e-tron on a trip, and that charging curve to 80%, 150 kilowatt in that case, was really, really nice. I liked it a lot. And now we're just going to get into the questions, answer everything you guys want to know, and feel free to comment down below. If it's something I know right off the top of my head, I will certainly get to it and respond in the comments. I think this could be fun. Hopefully you like this style of video as well. I sort of feel bad that we don't have the car in front of us and I'm presenting it to you. We did that all earlier today. I just cannot post the footage yet, but hopefully Volkswagen will give us the okay. It's basically an embargo. We were the first ones, I believe, in the world to film driving inside the ID.4, and they want to let some other journalists get inside the car so we can all post our reviews at the same time. That's my guess. It's typically how it works, but we'll see how they're planning on doing it. Dan asks, are they letting you do a highway range test? Unfortunately, no, we just didn't have the time. We took the car, my videographer Timon and I, we took the car out today around Detroit. We had it for about, what do you think, about an hour and a half, right? Yeah, about an hour and a half, and it's just not enough time to get a highway range test in and an overview of the vehicle. It just is not feasible on these first drives, but we will soon, I promise. We will do a 70 mile per hour highway range test on each configuration of the vehicle. Let's see. Someone wants to know my thoughts on the touch controls, the green Texan. Let's see. The touch controls, I would imagine, would be a lot of the buttons. Well, the steering wheel are all haptic buttons. So you just brush your fingers over the steering wheel and it kind of buzzes when you select a button. It's pretty interesting. The steering wheel controls are piano black, though, which I don't like. Shows fingerprints. Everything else in the car, touch points, were really nice. Air conditioning controls were cool. The touchscreen was beautiful. The 12-inch display right in the dashboard. It has Volkswagen's new UI on it. The one we drove was an early pre-production prototype, so the screen was a little bit laggy. But at least Volkswagen claims that's not representative of the final production build, and it's going to be much snappier when it comes to market. So fingers crossed that that is the case. It also has gesture controls, so you can like karate chop and then swipe your hand and it moves the screens around. I thought that was kind of cool. I really like that a lot. So let's see. Someone says there's no Tesla service center near them, so ID.3 or 4 is starting to look like the next best thing. They probably live in Europe because we don't get ID.3 here in the US, unfortunately. Volkswagen, please bring it to us. I love the ID.3. Someone wants me to take the two-wheel drive one off-road. Probably not. Does America get a tow hitch? Yes. It actually got this little, I think it's a 1 1/4 inch, might be a 1 inch. You can comment down below what it is, but it's just a little bike rack accessory hitch that was on the ID.4 first edition that we drove today. I thought it's pretty nice and looked good for sure. Just going to load up more questions. Have to hit the next one. Someone wants to know audio quality. Chris asks, well, he doesn't ask, he just says audio quality. But I can say we did test the sound system today. We adjusted some of the volumes, and it's a bumping system. Sounds great. Really strong bass, nice highs. The mids, I'd say, were on par, not amazing, but the overall sound quality envelopment was crisp. It didn't distort at high volume levels and sounded really nice. Someone wants to know a detailed overview of menu and speedometer screen on steering column. I filmed all this, of course. Couple takeaways that I noticed is there's an almost adjustment for everything. You can set, for example, when you click unlock on the key for it to start preconditioning the cabin as soon as you click unlock. I thought that was a great feature. The car also recommends that you charge it only to 80% daily instead of 100%. I think that's smart to preserve battery longevity. And then you can, of course, set your charging limit slider in there. A lot of EVs don't let you do that. I'm glad Volkswagen is. The biggest takeaway for me, though, going back to audio quality, wasn't the audio quality of the sound system. It was good, but it was the auditory experience inside of the car while driving. It was nearly dead silent. I mean this seriously. We just had an Audi e-tron with the double pane glass and all that extra sound deadening, and it is a little bit quieter than ID.4. But ID.4 is like so quiet. You can hear a pin drop in there. Really impressive noise ability. Basically no tire noise, no wind noise. You just cruise down the highway in silence. It's almost eerie. I thought that was really impressive, especially considering that this was a prototype. Typically prototypes that we drive aren't really that put together well. This was just sublime. It was really nice. So let's keep going through the questions. There's only one audio package. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Road handling, steering, and build quality. Let's start with the steering, which I was very impressed with. Those that know me know I love my Tesla. I'm a huge Tesla fan, but one of my gripes with my Tesla, and especially the Model Y, is the steering ratio is a little bit too quick. So your on-center initial, tip in on steering basically is a little bit too sharp and it makes the car feel darty. Certainly great on a back road for performance driving, but I find on the highway it's a little twitchy. This did not have that. It's certainly a slower rack, but it allows for more precise control. And you'll see in my first drive review that comes out soon that when you set a steering angle and hold it, the car tracks really nicely. I'd say it's a really nicely calibrated steering system. The road handling is soft. This is not a performance EV. This isn't something you're going to take out and tear up the canyons. You can throw it into a corner, and while it is extremely nicely balanced, this car is certainly, it's not a corner carver. I think when you compare it to competitors such as Model Y, that's a much more performance-oriented suspension setup. I expect the same from Mustang Mach-E to be much more performance-oriented. We'll find out. We're driving that in a week. Very excited to drive the Mustang Mach-E. Won't be able to tell you about it till mid-December, but should be pretty good. And then the handling and road handling in terms of suspension comfort was off the charts. This thing wafts down the highway, and I reserve that word for very nice cars. Audi e-tron is one of them. Any Rolls-Royce product wafts, if you kind of know what I mean. It has this bank vault sort of just going down the highway, flattening the bumps, and you're sort of removed. And that's exactly what this gave you. On a long highway trip, this car would be insanely good because it's just so soft, it's so comfortable, and it's so quiet. So it really ticks all the right boxes to make a really high quality road tripper. And with that charging curve, it means you can go relatively big distances between the chargers, because you never want to charge an electric car once you've tapered down to slow speeds. So that's something the Germans do pretty well. Let's keep going. Someone said size inside. Well, I'm 6'1", and I actually was FaceTiming my dad inside of the car. He's 6'5". I was like, Dad, you could fit in this thing. I always do the hand measurement, but I did this on top of my head, and my whole fingers could not even touch the sunroof. There was so much headroom. I mean, you could be like 8 feet and fit in this car. So it's really designed for someone of many sizes to fit. Same with the back seat. Great headroom in the back seat. A little less than the front. The front seats get nice and low. But in terms of knee room, it was really great in the back. And also something I noticed is the back seats have a sculpted backrest to them. So unlike a lot of EVs or any car really in the back seat where it's sort of a bench style, this actually hugs you and holds you in a little bit like a Taycan back there. Someone asked about real world consumption. This was something that's always difficult to get on first drives because I typically drive the cars quite aggressively, then I cruise really smoothly, so my driving isn't consistent enough to get an idea of efficiency. It was cold out today. I can tell you the car, I think, was somewhere around 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which I was impressed with how I was driving it. But again, that's not a relevant number. Just because of my driving style was all over the place. We have to test the performance with the rear wheel drive. You can floor it mid-corner. It kind of steps the back end out. It's really nice. Even though it's soft, it is predictable and corners very nicely. I was impressed with that. And then, yeah, that was that. So someone wants to know, is this one fitted with the heat pump? Well, confirmed, no US cars are getting heat pump. And I asked Volkswagen why this was the case, and it purely, a couple reasons. First off, they claim it makes no difference in the EPA consumption cycle. Okay, so that's one thing, it's not branded any better. But also it would add costs. So they really wanted the base price of the vehicle to be under $40,000. So the way, if you're not sure how it works, the manufacturers basically in Germany say, here are all the available options for the car, and then each market chooses how they want them spec'd. So for example, in the US market, we're not able to get the really nice taillights like you are able to in Germany, just because of our weird FMVSS. So there's all these little things that go on. And one of those things is the heat pump. And they found that in the EPA cycle, there was no added benefit to heat pump, and there was no, and it would increase the price. Now in actual driving in cold weather, would it help? The answer is yes, but they claim it's not that much of a difference to necessitate putting a heat pump on the cars. Now, could they have made it an option? I think yes, maybe it would have confused buyers, and it certainly would make it more difficult to stock cars at dealers this way. I don't really know. I don't think it's that big of a deal because you still get heat scavenging from the battery pack, and in cold weather climates, really, you know, the 1 or 2 or maybe 3% efficiency gain you would get from this isn't going to make or break making it to a charger. So, yep. Okay, let's see. Lots of comments on the heat pump. Someone said this is a deal breaker for them. Interesting. I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker. Now we get a question asking about regen braking and one pedal driving. This is something I always focus on whenever I test a new EV. It's really important to convey how the car drives in its pedal mapping. So the car has two driving modes to go forwards. There's drive and braking, D and B mode. And D mode drives like a normal car. You put it in drive. So the accelerator pedal increases the speed, and then when you lift off, the car coasts. By the way, creep mode is on as standard, and there's no way to turn off creep. And what I mean by creep is when you lift your foot off the brake pedal from a stop, the car inches forward. I wish that wasn't the case. And there also was no auto hold in the tester I drove. Now, that may make its way in through software. Creep mode adjustment might make its way in through software or through over the air. Of course, we have some time before delivery starts, so this is just what was on the car I drove today. But you do have to keep your foot on the brake pedal. There's no auto hold, and the creep mode, anytime you lift your foot off the brake, the car would inch in drive or braking. And in drive mode, when you're cruising and you lift your foot off the accelerator pedal, it coasts. Then you touch the brake pedal and it blends in regen. And then when you push past the regen, it blends in friction brakes. Now the front of this car has discs, the rear has drums. Doesn't really matter. I guess drums last longer due to prolonged unuse. Basically, the regen was enough to slow down the car in almost any scenario. You just blend in friction brakes to pull the car to a stop. We also did one full ABS emergency stop, and the braking performance was stellar. Actually surprising. You'll see in the video when we're able to post it. We were very shocked at how well the braking performance was on this car. It felt like a lot of sports cars that we have driven. Really sharp pedal feel, and it really hauled the car down to a stop nicely. When you drive the car in B mode, of course, the creep is there, the acceleration is there, it's not slow in any way. When you lift off the accelerator pedal, you get most of the regen. I'd say at least 90% is off pedal. So you can in theory one pedal drive this car around all the way till you're about 5 miles per hour, and then you hit the physical brake pedal, and that will bring you to a stop. Certainly wasn't annoying. Would I like one pedal driving with blended brakes to hold you with auto hold? Yes. I think that would be a really nice thing to do, and that can come through a software update, of course. Someone asks, seat comfort. Well, the one that I drove was a first edition, so I believe it's a 12-way power seat. Anyway, it had the nice seats, and they were extremely comfortable. They're not overly cushy. They're not overly firm. They are, I would say, just right. The center armrest is kind of interesting. It folds down and then you can lock it in place wherever you want. I thought that was great, so I got in position really nicely. It also had massaging seats for the back, only the backrest. So you had the lumbar that moved all the way up and down. And while it's not as nice as the massaging seats out of an e-tron, which have all those little hot stone things that massage you, it was really nice just to keep the blood flowing. I kept it on most of the drive today, so I would say it's probably worth the upgrade for the massage seat alone. For me, I really like that. Also, the glass roof was beautiful in this. Someone wants to know how this falls in the sporty versus comfort spectrum, and he says that he's driven an e-Golf and they tend to lean towards a harsher ride with an emphasis on performance. This is not that. This is a comfortable car that can be driven in a performance manner if you really push it. While it is soft, it's composed on the limit. The rear-wheel drive really helps get the car rotated out of a corner when you're putting the full power down. But this is a comfort car all the way. A lot of Tesla owners that like to take their car to the track or enthusiast vehicles, this is not for you. This is a everyday, comfortable, around town car. This is actually a great replacement to our owned. One of our cars is a BMW i3. This kind of feels like the next step up. So I really, really like that. It's very comfortable, easy to get in and out of car, and the suspension is very comfortable. Ease of use and learning curve, EV, but from people coming from internal combustion vehicles, I'd say it's just so easy. You get in, there's no key to turn on the car, I should say start button, it's foot on the brake, put it in drive and go, put it in park and get out. It's actually simpler than an internal combustion vehicle. You don't even have to turn it on. You just need to be in there and go. So I think that's really great. Road noise, level and frequency, I've already touched on it. Unbelievably quiet. The view out the rear while driving looks like a small window. I should have paid a little bit more attention to this, but I don't actually recall having any visibility issues while driving the car. The blind spot monitoring was there, had a very clear backup camera, had sensors all around. All of the driver assistance and safety features come as standard on the ID.4. So no issues there. And the view out the back was better than the Model Y. And the only reason I say this is because every time I get in a Model Y, I'm kind of like, it's a little tight to see back out there. And then you get used to it. Are the tires really staggered tires? I should have checked. I have a video of both the front and rear, and I can reference that at some point and take a look. I was not able to try IQ Drive today because the pre-production car software would not allow for it. So I will be going to drive a new Volkswagen relatively soon with all the systems, and I'll tell you all about it. Let's see. How cheap or not does the interior finish feel? And basically how overly complex the various junctures in the interior feel. Transitions, are they smooth or overly complicated? So the car has a lot of different materials and colors. It has a black dashboard, white trim in the particular one I drove, dark carpets, of course the glass for the roof, but everything felt as it should be. While the plastics were physically hard to the touch, Volkswagen does an amazing thing of making hard plastics still feel nice. So yeah, nothing about that car felt unpremium at all. I was actually really impressed with all of the touch points. Anything that you're physically going to be touching while driving is soft. But then when you start feeling around, it's hard, but it's still a nice material. Everything is textured. They did a really nice job with material selection on this car when factoring in how good of a bargain it is. Now, if you had this interior in a $100,000, $90,000, $80,000 e-tron, I'd say, yeah, that's not acceptable. But for an under $40,000 base price, or even up to a $50,000, $55,000 car, which you can't even option this car that expensive, it feels totally fine. Do you know if your test car is a production version? It was not. It's also kind of a hodgepodge of a Euro/US spec car. It was kind of thrown together. I mean, it was cool, drove great, no issues, nothing I would notice from my side. I was just asking some of the engineers, what's going on in there basically. What's the availability of Apple CarPlay? Well, let me tell you a little bit about the phone integration in general. So the 12-inch UI system, the big one, is what I experienced today. And it has a lot of features built in. It has navigation built in with route planning, tells you where all the chargers are. The navigation's great. It's all a whole new ground-up system designed for the ID.4 for the US market, a global market, but it's the first time we're getting it in the US. It's really nice. There's a wireless phone charger down in the console, but you can actually use it now because CarPlay and Android Auto are both wireless, so you don't even have to plug your phone in, which is nice. There's 2 USB-C ports in the front and the rear. There's also rear air vents for those wondering. Great for ride sharing. And the USB-C ports, I did not believe on this car were like the high power ones. They were just normal power because I don't think any of our phones went into like turbocharging mode or whatever they do. So seemed fine. But yeah, Apple CarPlay is wireless, works fine, full functionality, really like it. What I'd love to see soon is some integration between Waze and the car, and for Waze to get EV route planning. So maybe work with a better route planner or ChargeWay and come up with a route plan. I think that'd be really nice. Interior styling, love it. My favorite part were the pause and play buttons on the pedals. That's only on the first edition, but hopefully they sell that as an accessory in the future. Right, no idea on range. Someone asked what the miles were. The car was predicting around 220, 230 miles with about 80%, 85% charge on the battery, and I'm sure everyone was thrashing it around all day like I was. So this car might actually perform pretty well. So yeah, that would be cool. And let's see, is it a thrill to drive? No, it's not a thrill. It's just a very comfortable, competent, grown-up vehicle. But it also makes you smile because everything about the VW ID.4 is happy and pleasant. You're never going to have a bad day driving this thing around. It's so airy, it's so trendy and modern. It's really cool. Let's see, backup camera resolution was great. We had the 20-inch wheels on ours, and comfort was great. And do you get auto up and down on all windows? I believe so, yes. So thanks so much for joining me on this video so I can tell you my thoughts and impressions on driving the ID.4. I can't wait to share some of my first driving impressions with you. You'll see some of them here on this channel, but also on our EV only site called Inside EVs, where we do all the videos there. So subscribe to them. I'll have a link below in the description. I hope you're eagerly awaiting the videos. I can't wait to share them with you. And we'll see you back hopefully tomorrow with another video here. Might be on an electric car, might be not. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.